Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Virgo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of October. I hope you are well. Again, I can scarce believe we are in October, but there we are. What do I have to tell you? There will be an extended at the end of this reading. If it resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper into that, that will be the first link in the description box. The second link is the six-month overview that I did for each of the signs that runs from July until December. If you haven't had a chance to see that yet, and you fancy it, do go and check it out. I would really like for people to hear the messages that came through for that. I've knocked it down by a third because we're like a third of the way through that period anyway now. So yes, that is that link. Mercury retrograde in Libra. That probably by the time you see that, we'll probably be, almost in it. Certainly we're in the shadow phase at the moment, which lasts for 2 weeks. The retrograde itself lasts for another 2 weeks, and then we have like a wind down period called the shadow period. Either side, another 2 weeks for that. So the usual rules apply. Don't expect people to understand exactly what you mean, because possibly you won't be expressing it very well, and extend the same courtesy to other people because they probably aren't expressing terribly well what it is they're trying to say either. You could find yourself talking at cross purposes to people during this time. We also have traditionally issues with technology, just spontaneously bricking itself for no apparent reason whatsoever. Travel disruptions, that kind of thing. Contracts are a big one. If you can possibly avoid signing any during this time, then that's okay. If you can't, for whatever reason, you must sign this contract, then make sure that you get another pair of eyes, preferably 2 pairs of eyes over it, and make sure that you're signing up for exactly what you think you are, and that there isn't something hidden in there that might come back to bite you on the arse at some point later on. I mean, the nature of this energy is highly reflective. It's about tying up loose ends, and so it's not a good time to start something, but it is a good time to finish something that you've already had underway. Yeah, that was too good to last. Yes, and so if you use the energy in the way for which it is meant to be purposed, then actually it can be an incredibly valuable time of year. But in other respects, it can be incredibly frustrating and a bit like this. But it is what it is. So enough of that. Let's get you some cards. Can I have 3 cards, please? Thank you. Virgo, we have the 2 of Wands in your recent past. In your current energy, we have the King of Cups. I like that for you, Virgo. I like it a lot. What's coming towards Virgo for October, please? Thank you. We have the Justice card. Card of Libra in Libra season. What do we have down here? The card that fell out to the right as I was shuffling there is the 6 of Wands. That's a Leo card that speaks specifically of success, and not just not just small things, but public success, other people seeing that you are doing well at something. Now, the card at the bottom of the deck is the Temperance card. It's the card of Sagittarius, and it speaks about healing. It speaks about balance and bringing a sense of equilibrium back to yourself. It does speak about really deep healing. We've got this woman here, and she's pouring from some sort of amphora into a well, but she is underwater too. Now, the thing that I like about this card and this particular depiction of this card is she's in the water. And in the tarot, the water is emotion, but the water is not choppy. If there were lots of waves around, if it was a stormy time, then there would be silt coming up and the vision would be obscured. This is peaceful contentment, sitting in one's emotions. And for you, Virgo, that's a profound message right there, because your emotions have been the thing that have been trying to, cut you off at the knees for some time, understandably so with the things that you've been through. But this speaks of a gentler time for you, a gentler relationship with your own emotional space. Certainly we see other cards here that are indicating that too. Let's get some clarifiers. Can I have some clarifiers Two of Wands, we have the Ten of Pentacles and we have the Knight of Wands, which is an interesting combination. Rather opposite. Tell me about the King of Cups, please. Whoa, thank you. We have the Two of Cups and the Hanged Man, and then Justice. There's Justice here. We have the Moon, Justice, and the Ten of Wands. I actually really like that. I think that's wonderful. Oh, we have the Sun at the bottom of the deck. It's the card of Leo. So you've got two fire energies here underneath. One suit and fire generally is all about living and experience and doing. And I like to see this here for you because you are welcome to your cave. Like, I will never seek to take your cave away from you because that is your safe space, and your relationship with your cave has been very, very important over this last year, certainly, but increasingly over the last few months too, because that is your sanctuary, that is the place that you can go back to. However, it is important that in between times you remember to come out again, and this says to me that you are doing that. You know, the Sun is a tremendously positive card. Like, it just radiates joy and positivity. It does also talk about vulnerability, and I think that you're having an increasingly healed relationship with vulnerability now. Where you've been over the last year was an incredibly vulnerable place, and it's almost where you walled yourself up in your cave. It was that overt vulnerability. But there is a way of wearing that doesn't need you to put a fucking cave between you and the world, right? The cave sits behind you, and occasionally you will retreat in and get what you need from it, and then come back out into the world. Now, it all goes very well, I have to say. So the Two of Wands here is given to be a crossroads energy, and it's sitting here in your recent past. Now, by recent past, I mean this could literally be yesterday, or it could be a couple of weeks, maybe even a month behind you, right? And we have this woman, she's gazing into a crystal ball. It's more wand energy, more fire element energy, and we have one wand bolted to the side, or to these crenellations at the top of what one assumes is a castle that she stood on there, right? But we have this other wand here, and it appears to just be balanced on top of the wall. It's there for her to pick up and go somewhere with it, you know. And there's almost a stay or go kind of energy. What she's looking at here, you know, the Two of Wands is all cards number 2 generally have a heavy emphasis towards the internal, and where the Three of Wands is about actually taking action, because threes are conversely external, right? So it's about what you do in the external world around you. The 2 then is about kind of sitting in a state of contemplation. Or do I go this way or do I go this way? You know, holding your crystal ball, do I stay where I am, rooted to the crenellations at the top of this castle, or do I pick up the wand, which in this case would be an Ace of Wands, because there would just be one, and do I go out into the world? It's a state of internal contemplation, but it's very conscious, and I like this for you. The interesting thing is, I said that these two energies were rather opposite each other. They actually fit really rather beautifully with this Two of Wands. Because if the Two of Wands is kind of coming to a crossroads and needing to make a decision about something, then what we have down here are the two things that you're deciding between. The Ten of Pentacles, as well as being a card of family and a card of home, a card of happy family, you know, it's a card that speaks to me about commitment and heritage and kind of sticking with something and building on that, you know, until you get to a point where you've built a Ten of Pentacles. It can be a business, it could be your work, you know, whatever. But ultimately it's this sense of commitment to something that has existed for a long time and may continue to exist for quite a long time thereafter. You know, heritage and legacy kind of colliding in one shot just here. And then we have the Knight of Wands. And the Knight of Wands is an entirely opposite energy. It is not about the past. It isn't, in fact, even about the future. It's about the here and now. We're seeing where this is going now. And so the choice as it has been presented to you in your recent past is, are you going to stay with what is familiar? Are you going to, no matter how painful some of that might be, or are you going to venture out into the world, being very present, taking advantage of opportunities as they may present themselves to you, no matter how painful it may be. Like, there isn't a card here that's speaking of pain, but I feel like there are pros to both and cons to both for you too. This one here, this Knight of Wands, is a Sagittarian energy, and it gets a bad rap as a card, but it has some incredibly good qualities. Living in the moment is a very healthy place to be, provided that it's not taken to excess or taken to extreme. The Ten of Pentacles would represent your comfort zone, although it isn't really that comfortable anymore. And the Knight of Wands represents a need to move out of your comfort zone, even though the idea of that makes you feel quite uncomfortable indeed. Now, there's no sense here that one is better than the other. And that's the other thing. They are merely options that are available to you, options that are open to you. And, we could see this as you, having been planning potentially to move home, and move away from an area or an environment that holds a great deal of wonderful memories for you, but difficult memories too. But it could also speak to, increasing your social circle. Looking for people who are a little more like-minded, so that the thing that you share isn't just history, but there's an opportunity for a new start implied here. There's almost an inevitability about a certain neutral level of stagnation that could occur if you stayed with the Ten of Pentacles, as opposed to the rather frightening yet siren-like desirability of being able to start again in some way where, all of the difficulties associated with your past, recent or otherwise, are not first and foremost in everybody's mind when they meet you, And it's not to say that it's about pretending that those things haven't happened, because I don't think that there's any intention within you to do that. More, it is about freshening up your energetic space so that you're not carrying this heavy load around with you of your life, well, definitely your life experiences, but certainly the experiences of the last couple of years. It's almost like as an exercise in being able to assist you in looking at the world differently. A change of location, a change of people, a change of anything, might well be welcome for you at this time. Now, when we move into your current energy, what we have is the King of Cups. And I like this because this is speaking about incredible emotional stability. Now, I've stuck the modifier incredibly on there. Oh, shit. I thought I'd set fire to my hair. Like, it does it all the time. It wasn't, it was just a flower falling on my head. I did it in a personal reading once. It might have even been with a Virgo, I think it was. Yes, and I leant down to pick up a card down there, and just like the whole side of my head just like literally caught on fire. It didn't just like zizz down here, it was a full like whoosh. So now I'm a little bit twitchy about that now. Anywho. Incredible stability, because everything that you've been through recently, last couple of years, has seen you swing to the extremes of emotion. Right? Now, not both ways, but definitely towards the negative. Your life experience has been very, very challenging of late. And somehow, Virgo, despite everything, you have come to this place. You have achieved this level of emotional stability. It's incredible. No, I'm going to use that word again. It is incredible, right? And I am incredibly proud of you for having done that. You know, we see this here, being able to sit in your own emotions. I mean, take a closer look at that card. I mean, she is underwater and yet completely unflappable, right? The water is calm. It is peaceful. It is in the process of healing, and that is what you are doing here too. But this is more of an active, masculine energy in the tarot. It is active. Okay? It's about going out there and doing things, right? Whereas the Queen of Cups is very receptive, and it's about allowing things to happen to you. This is about the way that you actively show up in the world emotionally, and it is stable. Like, I have to say, this was a slightly stricken look. Let's see that. In that King of Cups eyes there, I think. It's like he's seen a lot, but he's made his peace with it. And although the water may be sloshing around, and there are strong emotions associated with these things, he's sitting very solidly on his rock throne. And he's not about to get washed off by anything. Now, at this point, Virgo, I think the only thing that is capable of knocking you off that is if, you emotionally spiraled about something and it was, from you that this was coming. But because you have been the one who has done the work here, and you are the one who has actively healed this, or certainly started the process thereof, because nobody heals in a year. Like, it just doesn't really happen. There's always residual stuff there, and particularly with the kind of monumental changes and shifts and losses that occurred for you last year. This takes time. It takes a long time, right? But what we've got down here is quite interesting. We've got the Two of Cups and we've got the Hanged Man. Now, the King of Cups is Scorpio energy. The Hanged Man is Pisces. And interestingly, you have all of the water signs depicted here in your reading, because Cancer appears just a little bit down the way. Now, the Hanged Man can be, because he's a passive card, and it's actually the most passive card in the tarot, he can sometimes be associated with being still, like a certain amount of stasis. Nothing is happening while he is tied up to that tree. Like, there's no movement going on there. And it can talk about sacrifice as well. And, that's quite a challenging narrative. But the other way of looking at this is that this is about your perspective. It's about the way that you look at the world. While everybody is looking at the world like this here, you're upside down and you're seeing the world from a different angle. Now, almost certainly this is as a result of the experiences that you've had in the last year, or two. But what comes with it is a type of enlightenment that you don't get when you look at the world in the same way that everybody else does, And certainly bereavements will do that to you. I remember thinking, after my daughter died, how weird it was that we sent children to school and we literally just didn't see them for like 30 hours a week. But more than that there were parents out there who clearly couldn't wait to get their children back into school so they could have their life back. And it's kind of like, I like my children being at home. I like it in the holidays. I'm devastated when they go back to school. Like, it's just a small example, but my perspective was very different. It's like, children are very, very precious, and I want to spend every second that I possibly can with them. And I've chosen to have them because they are going to be part of my life moving forwards, right? It's not because I had them and then I put them at school and then they're driving me mad all holidays and I can't wait to get them out of the house, There's no judgment on anybody else who does feel like that. It's just not my personal experience. And so, decisions that I've made in the past and in the relatively recent past have also held that slightly different viewpoint to everybody else, because I know what it is to not have, your small person around you anymore. And that means that perhaps in some ways I value the time that I have with small people more than other people who had not had that experience, right? But it's here indicating a change of perspective on the Two of Cups. Now, this can be romantic relationships. It can, right? And honestly, if you see this card come out in most readings on YouTube, that is going to be the interpretation that you are going to get. But it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It can be a close relationship that you have with your siblings, your children, your friends, your family, you know, whoever, work colleagues even. I'm seeing this to see business partners as well, because it's talking about an alignment. It's about people who are running along the same path together, right? There's shared interests, shared values, shared goals, whatever it is. And there's a kind of union that comes here, that magnetism that has you drawn to people who are similar to you, have a similar sort of mindset to you, or are looking to achieve a similar sort of thing to what you are. But ultimately, I feel when you boil this card down to what it means at its root, with all of those different, you know, versions of relationships that we have there, it comes down to a type of intimacy. All sorts of different types of intimacy, but ultimately intimacy. And now you have got to a point of emotional stability. It seems like you've changed your position on intimacy. Changed your position on whether or not you're going to allow it in. I would feel is almost certainly possible for some of you. But where, and this was a lot of you last year, where intimacy last year was associated with grief and loss and pain, and perhaps, you know, you swore to yourself that you would never get close to anyone again because ultimately it would just result in some sort of loss. And could you deal with this again? Could you go through this again for another year? You know, knowing how hard it is to drag yourself back on your hands and knees from the gates of hell. Could you do that again? Probably not. Probably better to just stay in the cave and keep people out of the way. I feel like you've changed your perspective on that quite a lot. I'm going to pull one more card for that, just make sure that there isn't something else here. What about this Two of Cups? Yeah, I mean, that says it all, really. We've got the Knight of Swords, we've got the Two of Pentacles, and we've got the Ace of Wands there. The Ace of Wands is interesting because I was talking about it there in the Two of Wands, right? There it is. There is you choosing to take the wand and move with it. You're choosing to live differently. You know, as an ace, it contains the full potentiality of the suit that it represents, right? It's all about living and experience. And whilst there's a certain higher power implied with the ace, it's like, here's the potential, what are you going to do with it? At the same time, it does feel like this has been a choice that you have made, and go and do this thing. The Knight of Swords and the Two of Pentacles here, we've got more water depicted on the Two of Pentacles, which is unusual for a Pentacle card. No, it's not. Rather, the fact that it's calm is unusual for the Pentacles card. Two of Pentacles card. What we've got is another two. We've got the Two of Wands, the Two of Cups, the Two of Pentacles. The only thing that's missing is the Two of Swords, and frankly, I don't really want to see that here for you. This is talking about bringing all sorts of things into alignment. Like, I think the healing that you are doing here, and look at the way that the colours are replicated across those cards. I find that really interesting. Is the acceptance that you will allow yourself to be intimate again, in whatever sense that it applies to you at this particular point in time. You know, it's that old adage, it's better to have loved and lost than never loved at all. And you know, at one point I used to think that was utter bullshit, and the person who said that for the first time didn't actually know what they were fucking talking about. But there is something in that, even though we are changed by the loss of that thing. Ultimately, when the dust has settled and we had done our work on it, like, we are better people than we were before. Better people, broader people, more experienced people, certainly wiser people, right? We can only hope to be better. This Knight of Swords is Gemini energy. And it does feel like somewhat of an uptick in a need to communicate with others. You know, you're stacking your pentacles, right? And pentacles for me are energetic currency. So anything that you can invest, be it time, care, money, energy, love, effort, all of those things then become pentacles, and you're stacking yours. Like not exactly conserving your energy, but building it. There we go, building your energy up in preparation for kind of meeting with the world in a way that you have not really felt terribly comfortable in doing in some ways. And like I said, it's this coming down to this choice between what has always been and, you know, what could be, or what is almost, you know, right now, even though there are pros and cons with both and there is pain associated with both. I feel like you're being drawn towards the need for a tribe, more people, new experiences. Because, like I said at the beginning, if you're a Virgo and you're living in a cave and you don't ever want to come out, then something's not quite right with you. You know, it should be a sanctuary. It's somewhere for you to retreat to. It shouldn't be your permanent abode. But the healing and the emotional stability and the change in perspective on intimacy and how you will allow it into your life, or how you might actually ultimately pursue that as a valuable thing in your life, seems to be very much in your energy at the moment. And I like this. It's very, very healthy, Virgo, very healthy. Now, we've come to October and we've got the Justice card. And the interesting thing about this is that it's kind of vague what's going on here. I mean, the Justice card, we all kind of have understandings of what justice is, right? It's fairness. And, you know, the last thing that you could say about your circumstances over the last year, Virgo, is that they have been fair, because they have most certainly been not, but they have taught you something. And the other thing that the card means, that the Justice card, is it talks about it talks about karma, it talks about consequences of things. And the thing that most people miss about karma is it is effectively neutral. You know, interestingly enough, like I had a Virgo actually comment on one of my videos recently, and they were despairing about the fact that most of the people that they had, it wasn't a Virgo reading, it was an Aries reading, about the fact that their partner had been in Aries, and their parents, and lots of people around them, they were a Virgo. And I said they were always left picking up the pieces after Aries, whichever version of Aries it happened to be in their life at this point. And they said at the end, where is their karma? And I found that really, really interesting, not least because if you find yourself having the same sign sent at you over and over and over again, there is something for you to learn from that sign, right? No doubt in my mind about that whatsoever. But it also showed that in this person's head, the karma meant punishment, you know. And why then was my next thought, why are you looking for these people to be punished? You know, why are you not? Because that's a way of outsourcing your power to somebody else. Right? It's looking for closure in something that may or may not come at the whim of someone else, rather than taking it back to you and going, I release this, I let this go, or I'm going to look at me and work out what it is about me that keeps attracting Aries, like what do I need to learn about that, and what can I do differently each time. Because karma is neutral. It is simply the consequences of one's actions, the consequences of choices that we make and decisions that we take in any given way. And the vague nature of this is simply that it seems to me to be saying that in some way or another, that which was hidden from you for a long time, right? All of the shadow stuff that you have been dealing with, not just the grief and the losses, but everything else that brought up for you, which is indicated by this card here. Though it has been hard, it is reaching completion, right? The Ten of Wands is a card of burden. It's a card of challenge. It's a card of things, of life being too difficult to bear in some way or another, right? And for you, Virgo, like the tipping point was the losses that you experienced last year. But the thing that's brought it to completion is the work that you chose to do off the back of that, right? So, whether it was bereavement or whether it was divorce, and I know that there was a lot of both within the within the Virgoan collective last year. Like, you could have sat in that Five of Cups energy. You could have sat in that energy of loss and grief and not being able to move. And indeed, like many of you did for a long time, understandably so. But ultimately there comes a point where you then say, okay, well, is this going to be my life now? For however many years I have left on the planet, is this going to be it? Or am I going to start rebuilding? And when you start rebuilding, you start coming across bits of you, old traumas, old wounds, old projections that all need kind of dealing with at the time. And it's a long, slow, arduous process, and one that arguably, in some ways, is completely unfair, because it's the last thing you want to be dealing with when you're in such an emotionally fractured state, is to be dealing with these things. But nevertheless, this is when they tend to come up, and you have been doing that. You've done your work here. This cycle of challenge, this cycle of burden is coming to completion. And for a lot of you Virgos, I think that what was thrown up for you to process, I'm not talking about the grief and the loss, but I'm talking about everything else that came with that, the insights that you got about yourself and all of that, is indicating a level to which your subconscious was really starting to struggle with just being alive, I've done a lot of personal readings with Virgos, and the one thing that really struck me was that although what happened last year was terribly cruel for most of you, actually within your pasts there were many things that were both cruel and unfair and just completely unbelievable. Actually, there was real trauma in your past, and each time Virgo had done kind of just like stuffed it into the cave and gone, it's okay, and we'll just keep doing. But the effects of that after a while mean that your cave is no longer your safe space. It's not your sanctuary anymore, because actually what it's done is it's filled with all of this trauma, all of this sadness, all of this unfairness that you've been made to bear. And in the absence of that sanctuary, then what happens is the self-critic starts to become the loudest voice in your head. This always happens. It always happens to you. There's something about you that is wrong. No. You've just been given or had chosen to take on board, If you believe that we choose the parents that we're born to, and we choose the life lessons that we will experience, there's an accelerated leveling up that you decided to take on this lifetime. In bringing peace to your internal space, in bringing peace to your cave, in choosing to work through these things even though you did not have the energy to do it, you still managed it somehow. It almost feels like and certainly It might feel like this in October. It feels like you hit some sort of massive checkpoint. Because where things were out of balance, now they are not. Now they have been brought into, and very consciously brought into balance. And it's no wonder then that there's this sense of newness about you, a pull towards the new. How do I do things differently? How do I live differently? How, where are some new people that I can get to know? How do I broaden my life experience somewhat, Where are the moon in the clinic? Thank you. Yeah. I mean, the card says it all. It's the strength card. You have become so strong, Virgo. 2 of Cups at the bottom of the deck there. Just interestingly echoing the thing. You have become so strong. And although you may not feel like it at all, and often it's my experience with strong people that they don't walk around telling everybody how strong they are, and all of the things they've got over and stuff like that. That sort of we all know those kind of people who use victimhood as social currency, right? Where it's like nobody suffered quite as much as I have, and they like to be seen that way because it gives them some sort of warped social standing. Like, that isn't you. And that isn't actually strong people. So they just do it. They don't make a song and dance about it. That sigh felt really comfortable. Felt like a real release. Virgo. You've grown, you've leveled up, and you've definitely hit some sort of checkpoint. And what it is at this point, I'm not entirely sure. And what I'm going to do now is go over to Vimeo and start looking at October specifically, see what events, whatever it is going on that seems to bring this to a peak in some ways. Like, it seems like this is the month where you notice this about yourself. It's definitely a sense of you standing up stronger and taller than you have done in months in October. And so for me, then there must be some sort of catalyst for that, even if it's just a conversation. And we will look into that in Vimeo. Obviously, if you're on Patreon, it's on there for no extra cost. So it looks to me like October could be a turning point in terms of your mindset. Like I said, this standing up straighter thing, like I actually want to sit up straight, rather than you being hunched over. My mother said once, many years ago, I always looked haunted. I had a kind of haunted look about me. And I just looked at her and I went, are you surprised? Like, really? I was always trying to make myself small, like hunch over and dyed my hair black and always wore black clothes, so just kind of blend into the background. And I see you going from this haunted, or rather hunted kind of feel, to just standing up straight and just being. And it's interesting that Virgo and Sagittarius are so far apart, and Sagittarius have been having some problems with Virgos over the last year. I mean, it might be that there'd been a Sagittarius involved here somewhere. But in terms of a sign to learn from, we can all learn something from Sagittarius, because their ability to be present is absolutely unparalleled. And I think that that's been important for you. It's been very important for you. Well, look at all this fire. Temperance, the sun, strength, Ace of Wands, 2 of Wands, Knight of Wands. It's all about living now for you. Even the 10 of Wands, to be honest. Obviously, because it's a 1 card, but in terms of living and doing and experiencing things. Much more action. Much more standing up straight. Right, Virgo, I'm going to leave it there. If you're coming over to Vimeo, that's cool. If not, no shade. Know that I love you all very, very much. And if I can get my clicker to work, so see you soon.